So how do we boost emotional intelligence for leadership success? It's a question that has come up quite a lot in the last couple of weeks for myself in talking with clients. And I think it's important to think back a couple of steps on, what's coming up that's leading us to think that maybe we have to, boost our emotional intelligence, or we're trying to coach another team member, manager, supervisor that's working underneath us, that we see a problem. There's definitely something we want to work through. There's great courses to go through inside of emotional intelligence. There's also fantastic books by authors that have done 20, 30 years of studies just around this subject. There's also emotional intelligence questionnaires, tests that we can go through that kind of highlights different points that are maybe a focus point to go into. But as a high level, we have a supervisor, a manager that we're seeing problems with. Now, we might be seeing issues where we've got high turnover in a team. That's usually one of the telltale signs. I don't remember exactly which author this came from or the study it came from, but people quit managers before they quit companies. They quit because of their direct manager or their manager's manager, basically. That's predominantly the reason people leave companies. So if we're seeing that high turnover, there's definitely an opportunity inside of that. It could be to do with emotional intelligence. It could be lots of other things as well. But in this kind of conversation and looking at things that we can work with inside of those individuals, emotional intelligence is a great way to start an improvement process around that kind of individual. The other thing to look for to think through is, are we missing opportunities to motivate and inspire the team that really could accelerate the business? So we might not have problems, everything might be going fine, but is it really moving the way we want to? Are we seeing different things in different departments? If we're seeing that, there's probably a potential that we're missing to accelerate everything. And again, it could come down to a lower emotional intelligence around supervisors or managers that we could really address and improve a lot of things. There's an interesting study that I saw a little while ago that, especially in the U.S., is as IQ, intelligence, is been increasing through years and years and generations, actual emotional intelligence has been decreasing. Not entirely sure why that could be. I think there's a lot of different factors that we won't get into, but it's definitely an opportunity for us to teach and coach through inside of our organizations. So these 3 steps is actually something I've worked with, like I said, just very recently over a period of time. But I was spending some time with this manager, and we were kind of reflecting on it. He had a very, let's just say, blunt style when it came to how he managed his employees. It was a restaurant here in Houston. And let's just say blunt. There's an easy, nice way to kind of say what his leadership style and communication style was. And what that was leading to was high turnover. And it was very difficult to keep staff in, let's say, pretty high stress job or a high focus job inside of a restaurant, and making sure that we were generating the team. Everything comes down to their reason why people come back to a restaurant is because of the service, and making sure that they're feeling that they're valued by coming into that restaurant. If your staff aren't motivated and on top form, it's going to trickle down, and you're going to have lots of first-time customers and maybe not a lot of repeat customers. And we were seeing that as well as the high turnover is. At the point that we started talking, his average turnover in like a 2-month period was like 25% of his people. That's a huge amount of training, retraining, explaining all the different systems to people. The other servers getting a little frustrated because they're sometimes a little bit of the babysitters and helping those new people come up to speed. So a lot of additional stress inside of a business that is very hard to run in the best of days. So the 3 things that worked very well for the manager I just discussed, and for a lot of other people that I've worked with, the biggest thing is really actually just focusing on yourself. I know it's a little strange when we're talking about emotional intelligence and we always think about how we are understanding someone else, but it's really the best place to start is just being self-aware for ourselves. And there's a couple of different ways to think about that, but the first one is being self-aware of what emotion we're actually feeling. Being able to do that allows us to first understand where we are and be able to not control it as much, but be able to kind of put limits on it to start with. So if we're feeling very angry at a situation, okay, acknowledge it, move forwards. Okay, what is it that I can do to move this conversation forwards instead of blowing up or doing something else, being blunt about something. So that self-awareness at the beginning is the first part, is really just start being very aware of yourself and how you're feeling and what emotional state you're in. The second one is really focused in on active listening. So active listening is, again, there's some self-reflection or self-perception of making sure that we're actually forcing ourselves to be an active listener. So active listening, how I describe it to folks is, are we actually listening to the words that are coming out of someone and listening for little nuances and maybe some words that get thrown in there that could mean something else, but listening to that instead of thinking about what we're going to say next. And that's the real key. And people say active listening, I listen all the time. Are they really listening, or are they thinking in their head what they're about to say back to someone else? Because as soon as you do that, you stop. You stop listening. You might be moving your head and everything else, but you're thinking about your rebuttal, the next thing you're going to say. You're ignoring everything else. And that's an important piece for a conversation, is, are we actually moving this forwards? If we're moving it forwards, we have to acknowledge parts of the conversation. Yes, yeah, we understand that. Even repeating some of it, like, so this is what I'm hearing, and then be able to move it forwards. There has to be that piece there. So the biggest thing, and I still find this myself, if someone says something very interesting to me, I'm thinking, oh, I got something else that I can add to that, or I've got an experience that I can add to that. And you'll notice that you completely miss the second part of their conversation. So you have to catch yourself. That self-awareness, again, it feeds right across all of this. Catch yourself on that awareness of, oh, I just stopped listening, and put yourself back into it. You can do this like micron seconds. So it's very, very quick. If you do miss something, you say, oh, wait a minute, can you go back a second and tell me that piece again? I don't think there's a problem with that, because it's showing that you're really trying to listen and you're trying to get every word so you can understand what they are trying to communicate to you. And the third piece is, responding with empathy. And again, empathy is really just trying to put yourself in their shoes. It doesn't have to, you don't have to think about this as a long drawn therapy session or something that we're having this conversation with. It's just dropping yourself in their shoes for a second, thinking about what that would be and how you would respond to that. Again, we want to acknowledge things, be able to move the conversation forward, be able to get our point across, and we have to be able to have this back and forth dialogue where someone feels listened to, that they're understood, and then we're able to move forwards, both of us, in the right direction of where we want to go to. And this ties a little bit into one of the other videos that I did about managing hard conversations. This is a big piece of it inside of that. But even if it's not a tough conversation, it's just all the conversations that we're doing, thinking through these, especially the self-awareness piece, catching yourself on what you're feeling and how your body's reacting, and catching yourself if you're not active listening, and really listening to the words and the meaning in some cases. Again, I think I could do this is different from I can do this. So are we really listening to every single piece that the person is saying and digging in a little deeper? Kind of peeling back the layers of the onion is a good way to kind of describe how we lead with high emotional intelligence and moving those conversations forwards. So high EQ, emotional intelligence, drives a lot of trust inside of the teams and business. It moves you forwards, definitely towards your goals, and you're being an inspiring leader to the rest of the team. That's the type of leader, manager, supervisor that people want to work with. They're the ones that they want to be with through thick and thin, moving forwards, getting projects done. If there's some of this that you feel that you want to dig into a little bit more, or even talk about I talked about the EQ tests that I have available that gives you kind of a broad spectrum of where you are and what opportunities could be arising, reach out to me at Andrew Buchan, ActionHTX.com. There's a link there that you can book a quick call, 15-20 minutes. We can have a very high level call, talk about maybe a specific instance that has come up, and that's a great way to kind of formulate a problem statement around. And we can look at other opportunities on how to strategically and systematically increase your emotional intelligence. I'm Andrew Buchan, your business accelerator.